has also chosen, and I stress this, chosen to tear up the values that once made America the shining light of the world. Now, in this land of the free and home of the brave, we have university students being swept up, shoved into unmarked vans.
I'm not talking about the violence. We've already established that. What's the difference between that and Tim Walz saying, I get a kick out of it?
First of all, Tim Walz is a complete moron to me. I have to be very honest, and I'm not surprised why the American people did not choose him.
Apparently, CNN's Abby Phillips just called out Tim Walz. And let me tell you, this wasn't your usual polite newsroom disagreement. No, this felt more like a political WWE match wrapped in journalistic shade. Blink for a second, and suddenly everyone's acting neutral while quietly sipping on the drama. So, what did she say that has everyone whispering in DC? Buckle up, because this one's got ego, irony, and just the right touch of chaos.
Is completely unacceptable, and these people will go to jail. I mean, you can't burn a dealership and not get caught eventually and go to jail. But it is, again, the broader question here about has it crossed the line when people are sort of rooting for the failure of it?
Before we move on, hit that like button and subscribe, because you know you don't want to miss this one. The political circus never sleeps, and somehow CNN just made Monday mornings interesting again. Abby Phillips, yes, the same Abby who can crush a talking point with just one eyebrow raise, decided to take on Tim Walz, the Minnesota nice governor who somehow always sounds like a man stuck between a PTA meeting and a campaign rally.
There was a clear lack of preparation and execution here on
I
Walz's
think
part.
I think actually it's the opposite. I think he had too much preparation.
Maybe,
He
yeah.
had so many lines that he was clearly trying to say.
The moment Abby went off script, you could almost hear every DC consultant drop their non-fat oat milk latte. CNN had done the unthinkable. It turned on one of its own talking points. Walz, who's been gliding through interviews like a man narrating his own campaign ad, finally met someone who didn't fall for the "I'm just a humble public servant" act. Abby wasn't buying it, and the internet, of course, completely lost its mind.
I know some of you know this on the iPhone. They've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, and take out just help.
Because in today's America, a journalist simply calling out a politician is treated like a national scandal. You'd think someone set fire to the Constitution based on the way people reacted. Twitter turned into a philosophy class run by people who've never read a book. How dare she? Some cried. Finally, others shouted.
The principle that the government shouldn't be picking winners and losers.
Why don't we ask ourselves about the market? It's down 8 to 20% depending on the sector you look at. Tech is down. Tesla's down. We're having a market correction. It happens every 18 to 20 months. And EVs are under pressure because of lots of competition.
And somewhere in the middle, Tim Walz was probably wondering if this was the part of the movie where he was supposed to look humbled or betrayed. But let's be real, Abby Phillips didn't just call him out. She stripped away his PR polish with surgical precision. Every word hit like it had been crafted in a political lab for maximum embarrassment.
You make of the criticism that one of the reasons why your party was so resoundingly rejected last November is because Democrats were gaslighting the country, saying that inflation was not a big deal, heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years of the job, while Americans in poll after poll for year after year were saying he's too old to do the job.
She didn't need to yell or even raise her voice. All she did was reveal the one thing every politician fears that moment when the script stops working. Walz has been living in that safe zone politicians love, where everything sounds rehearsed and nothing really means anything. He's been giving speeches like bedtime stories for a room full of donors, but Abby wasn't playing along. She cornered him with that signature CNN calm, the kind that says, "I'm about to ruin your day, but I'll do it professionally." And in that moment, you could see it, the slow unraveling of political composure. Walz tried to pivot the way politicians do when they're out of talking points and running on fumes, but Abby kept pressing polite, elegant, and ruthless. The thing is, Abby didn't just embarrass Walz. She exposed the fragile performance art of politics, the way they all talk in circles, smiling like everything's fine when it's clearly not.
When J.D. Vance said one of the many things he really hit Kamala Harris on, not Tim Walz, but Kamala Harris, he didn't respond because he clearly had things in his mind. I think the lack of interviews that he has done with national media, with local media.
Walz wanted to sound like a statesman, but instead came off like the guy in a group project who never read the assignment. And CNN, sensing ratings gold, ran the clip on repeat like it was the moon landing. But honestly, it was just a reminder of how hungry people are for authenticity, even when it comes wrapped in televised humiliation. Meanwhile, Walz's team went into full damage control mode, releasing statements about miscommunication and respectful disagreement, the usual political yoga that bends reality into something vaguely acceptable. And people noticed. The clip went viral not because it was explosive, but because it was real. The best part? Abby didn't need to shout to make it sting. She let silence do the heavy lifting, that pause, that faint smirk, that look that said, "You can't spin your way out of this one." It was elegant destruction, the kind of professional demolition you only see when a journalist remembers why she started in the first place.
All of those things.
Look, Joe Biden coming in and doing COVID and being a governor through COVID did a hell of a job. But I think one of the things that we didn't do is we assumed that we said, and it was true, that we were going to have a soft landing and our economy was...
Walz, for his part, tried to act like it was no big deal. He smiled, nodded, and gave that classic politician line, the one that sounds humble but means absolutely nothing. But his eyes told the real story. That wide-eyed, half-confused look of a man realizing the media honeymoon was officially over. Abby had simply said what everyone else was already thinking. Walz's carefully crafted persona had more layers than a wedding cake, and about as much authenticity. And the chaos that followed was pure political comedy campaign aides whispering about strategic adjustments, press conferences where no one dared ask real questions because they were still processing what had just happened. Meanwhile, Abby Phillips stayed calm and composed, probably sipping tea somewhere while the entire political establishment unraveled. CNN executives might have panicked for a second, but ratings soared. The segment was clipped, shared, dissected, and memed faster than you could say, optics problem.
Sorry, this guy, he's the only school teacher in America who brags that none of his students can get into an Ivy League school. He's had one consequential press interaction with our Dana Bash, who asked him about the fabrications in his own resume, and his answer was essentially, me no understand words good. I mean, he's a buffoon. He's on a free ride for running under Harris. He gets very...
They don't like that, and that's the real joke. Not that Abby embarrassed Tim Walz, but that it took one unscripted moment to show how much politics relies on keeping everything scripted. One honest pushback, and the whole machine short-circuited. But it didn't stop there. Walz became the face of what happens when political confidence meets journalistic competence. Meanwhile, pundits rushed to spin it into a culture war debate. Is Abby Phillips too aggressive? They asked, as if asking real questions had somehow become a crime. But Abby's approach was simple. Ask real questions, expect real answers, and don't mistake professionalism for bias. It's not prejudice, it's backbone, something Washington hasn't seen much of in a long time. And that's what made this moment so satisfying. It wasn't about partisanship or political lines, it was about accountability, the kind that makes politicians squirm and voters secretly cheer. Because deep down, we all enjoy watching the mighty get humbled, especially when they've been talking like TED speakers for 2 years straight.
Back in the ring. I speak of former VP nominee Tim Walz. He joined Beto O'Rourke at a Texas town hall last night, and the estrogen levels were enough to give Chuck Norris menstrual cramps. I wonder, is our strength our diversity?
Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is.
By the end of the week, Walz's team stopped mentioning Abby altogether. They realized that every time they brought her up, the clip resurfaced, and their polling slipped. Silence became their only strategy. But the damage was already done. Abby's moment reminded everyone that sometimes telling the truth, even at the cost of someone's ego, is what journalism is supposed to be. In a way, she did Walz a favor. She forced him to look in the mirror. But we knew better. We saw the exact moment his PR armor cracked, the flash of panic when the script fell apart, and Abby Phillips doing what every journalist dreams of, exposing the truth without breaking a sweat. So yes, Abby called out Tim Walz, but she also called out a system addicted to performance. She broke the rhythm, and for once, the audience got something real. Maybe that's why it went viral, because deep down, everyone's tired of being lied to politely.
Needs to acknowledge that President Biden was not up for the job of running for re-election, and that this was a major mistake by the
He made that
Democrat-
decision.
I know, but you all went
Yeah,
along with
he
the
made that
idea that he
decision.
was up for it, and he wasn't. And everybody saw it, and the country rejected it.
Yeah, well, look, history will tell us to go back on that. That very well.
People want the messy, awkward human moments, the ones that remind us these so-called leaders are just people, the kind who sometimes get outsmarted on national television. The irony, of course, is that Walz's campaign probably raised more money the next day than it had all month. Scandals sell, humiliation trends, and CNN milked it like it was Super Bowl coverage. By Friday, Abby was trending in 3 time zones, and Walz was trending for all the wrong reasons. Still, if you ask me, Abby Phillips didn't just call out Tim Walz. She reminded everyone that truth, even in small doses, can still shake the system. It was messy, uncomfortable, and absolutely hilarious to watch unfold. That's exactly what this was: reality TV. For people who read headlines, Abby Phillips stayed unbothered and unshaken, exposing the gap between what politicians say and what they mean, while Walz tried to hold on to the illusion of control as it slipped through his hands, and everyone else pretended it was just business as usual.
There was Oliver Wendell Holmes, and actually you can. I don't believe you're a lawyer, Governor Walz. You can yell fire in a crowded theater, and you can say hateful things, because this is the United States of America, and it's right there in Amendment number 1. It's one of our favorites, was one of the founders' favorites, and was one of the founding principles upon which this country was built. There's no exception for speech Tim Walz or Kamala Harris magically deems hateful. But they've been pushing this, both of them, and a lot of Democrats have, for quite some time. These young Democrats on college campuses say that they believe that the Constitution does.
But nothing about this was normal. It was a perfectly chaotic collision of media power and political fragility, a modern-day gladiator match fought with questions instead of swords. And in that arena, Abby Phillips didn't just win, she dominated. By the time the dust settled, one thing was clear: Tim Walz's confidence had left the building. And that, my friends, is the beautiful, absurd, and perfectly ironic state of American politics. As the story kept spiraling, something strange happened. The political world started pretending this was normal. Like, sure, a sitting governor getting publicly dismantled by a CNN anchor before lunch on a Tuesday is just democracy at work. Reporters called it a healthy exchange, which in Washington speak means someone got vaporized, but we'd rather not admit how entertaining it was. Meanwhile, Tim Walz's communications team quietly went into hiding. Meanwhile, every political strategist in D.C. started using the moment as a case study. But to be fair, let's give the man some credit, he didn't completely disappear. He did the classic politician move and doubled down. And Abby? She became a legend. Every newsroom in the country replayed the footage like it was a training montage. Young journalists whispered her name like she was some mythic figure, the slayer of talking points, the destroyer of dodges. CNN practically built a shrine around that segment. It was their version of finding the lost Watergate tapes. Social media crowned her the queen of calm annihilation. Every time Walz tried to post something inspiring, someone would reply with a screenshot of that look she gave him, the one, that faint knowing smile that said, "Bless your heart, you just made my job easier." It became the meme of the month. One photo, endless uses.